All right, so our next speaker, amazing speaker. You're going to love this session. Carla Zander, where are you, Carla? Because she gave me the book, so you can thank, there she is. So you can thank her for our next speaker here. But let me read a little bit of a bio. Before becoming an author and a consultant, Chris Voss was the lead international kidnapping negotiator for the FBI, where he worked on approximately 150 kidnappings worldwide in his 24-year career. He was also a member of the New York City Joint Terrorist Task Force for 14 years and served as the lead crisis negotiator for the New York City division of the FBI. Now today, he is a consultant and he's CEO of a firm called the Black Swan. He's the author of the book, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. And thanks to our wonderful sponsors at the copy of the book will be at the Barracuda table for you to pick up when you, at the end of the session. And he teaches international negotiations in the MBA programs at the University of Southern California and Georgetown University. What I'll tell you is, as you guys know, I get to speak with, learn from, interact with a lot of speakers, authors, famous folks, if you will. And I think more and more it becomes more difficult to impress me. And I don't mean that to be arrogant. I'm just saying that after a while, you kind of have seen it all. But when I got Chris's book and I started to read it, instantly I was hooked. It's one of the best books I've read in a very long time on marketing, on sales, on negotiations. And, started watching some of his podcasts. I have my whole sales team studying his book. We went through it chapter by chapter, not just let's read the book and discuss it, chapter by chapter, reading it, breaking it down. How are we going to apply this today? It is a tremendous book. My sales team loves it. We love it. And I think you're going to get a lot out of his presentation. So help me welcome Mr. Chris Voss. I don't think we have a video, right? No video? All right. Help me welcome Mr. Chris Voss.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that was a very warm introduction. Thank you very much.
Your return to shore was not part of our negotiations nor our agreement, so I must do nothing. And secondly, you must be a pirate for the Pirate's Code to apply, and you're not. And thirdly, the code is more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules. Welcome aboard the Black Pearl, Miss Turner.
All right, so welcome aboard the Black Swan. All right, so you guys are dealing with sales challenges, right? What's a hostage negotiator got to tell you about sales and marketing? Well, I sold jail sentences. And we had buyers. So let's walk through some of this first. Let me show you this video.
Both carrying on a verbal love affair with the word hostage. Listen.
You do not hold people hostage or engage in ransom taking to get 100% of your way.
They're trying to hold veterans hostage to force Obamacare on the American people.
You cannot negotiate with a hostage situation.
We've got a group of folks who think that they can hold America hostage.
The president somehow wants to keep this hostage.
They've taken hostages.
No president should be held hostage.
Holding our government hostage.
Holding the U.S. hostage?
Hold the entire country hostage.
Hold them hostage.
Don't hold anyone hostage.
They took hostages.
Hostage taking.
Stop taking hostages.
They had to take the country hostage.
Whether or not it's correct to kind of use the hostage terms by politicians, when you see this, as somebody who's negotiated a lot, when you see what's going on in Washington, what jumps out to you?
Well, there's two things about that. You know, on a personal note, I like that they use the word because then it gives me a chance to be on your show. And
I haven't been able to focus on anything. His company is called the Black Swan Group. That is the baddest ass name I have ever heard. I love that. Now, what is the Black Swan Group? That's like the coolest. What is that?
Thank you very much. A black swan is something unusual that has a great impact, and we like to think that the way we negotiate has a great impact.
See?
All right, so how often do you get a chance to tell a joke that makes Anderson Cooper laugh, right? All right, but there's a communication lesson in there. There's a marketing and sales communication. You know what, a lesson in there, a couple actually. You know what might that be? Any idea what that might be? There's a neuroscience lesson in there too. All right, so I don't make that remark in context. You know, I like it because it gives me a chance to be on your show. I guarantee you Jeffrey Tobin does not give me the best commercial my company ever got. The Black Swan Group, that is the baddest ass name I ever heard. I mean, how valuable is that in the moment, and what inclines people to do that? I guarantee you that if leading up to the show, before the segment goes on, Jeffrey Tobin is sitting around there with those guys and he says, you know, Black Swan Group, that's kind of badass. I'm going to say that when we go live. Anderson Cooper would have looked at him and said, no, you're not. You're not saying that. This is CNN. The C in CNN does not stand for comedy. We're not telling jokes here. The producers would have gotten in his ear and said, Jeffrey, just stick to the script. You know, we got a definite agenda here. Stick to it. But I'm sitting there off camera in a moment. I'm hearing hostage this, hostage that, hostage this. This is a straight line. I just got to hit. You know, I can't help this. So humor within context. Never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. Create moments, create an environment where good things happen, which is all about what all hostage negotiation is. Like, how are we going to get to our goal? How are we going to get there? I don't know. But I do know that if I create this great process, I've had enough time in this process to know that delightful things that favor me are going to happen. So some of you like to be funny all the time. You know, there's a hostage negotiator. I don't call into the bank and say, hey, anybody in there from Iowa? Because I grew up in Iowa. You know, how'd you guys get here today? You know, what was your drive like? None of that stuff, the kind of stuff that gets into people right away in a very good way. So, but humor, be careful with it, but within context, in appropriate context. You know, I call in a bank and say, hey, did you hear the one about the one-armed hostage negotiator? You know, I'm not going to say that. But within context, in a given moment, now here's a neuroscience lesson. This is how you begin to make things happen that are to your advantage, but you don't know exactly what they are, because that's scary. It's interesting to say never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. We get people all the time saying, okay, so what are those things? And I say, I don't know. Let it happen. And it scares people. It's going to scare you. All right, so the neuroscience lesson. That's what I love about neuroscience these days, because neuroscience is now backing up the stuff that we started learning in hostage negotiation back in the 70s before neuroscience existed. Neuroscience lesson, you're up to 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. 31%. You know, many of you work very hard to be dispassionate. If you're dispassionate in your business, you're holding yourself back. You're not as smart as you could be. Your mental capacity is restricted. 31%, that's no small jump. Within that 31% moment, you can create that appropriately at the right given time. Something occurs to Jeffrey Tobin where he gives me something extraordinarily valuable, which we played over and over and over again. 31%. Here's a wacky thing about that too, because they do all these crazy experiments in neuroscience. They took some people and they said, take a pencil, hold it in your mouth, don't let your teeth touch it. What are you doing? You're smiling, only you don't even know it. They want to find out if there's a hard wire between the nerves in the brain and the nerves in the face and the neurons in the brain. And there is. You can put yourself in a smarter frame of mind very quickly. You know, I'm living in Southern California these days. My accent has got to confuse you as to where the heck this guy is, especially if he said he's a small town boy from Iowa, son of Richard and Joyce Voss, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. But I'm living in California these days. I don't know how many people here live in Southern California, but they're always talking about gratitude. I'm so grateful to be here. You know, as a Midwestern guy, I'm like, please stop, all right? You know, enough. But in reality, when you put yourself in a grateful frame of mind, you're smarter. I'm getting ready to get into a negotiation with a business counterpart I don't like. I don't like them, I don't trust them. But being a hostage negotiator, I got no problem navigating a relationship with somebody I neither like nor trust. That was how I made my living. That doesn't rattle me. But I'm getting ready to get on the phone with this person, and I'm running through my skill set, and I'm trying to do my preparation in advance, very brief preparation, and I can't come up with anything. And I just keep seeing myself getting angry with this person. And while I was driving, I stopped and I thought, you know, the only reason why they're trying so hard to continue this relationship is because we're good. And they're making money off of us. And this is a result of success. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm lucky to be in this conversation at all. It's a sign of success. And I felt an instant change in my brain's ability to react. And I came up with the things that I needed. And I calmed down. And I finished my drive. And we had a successful interaction. So interesting, crazy little hacks that'll make you smarter in the moment. All right, so let me tell you a little bit more about some of the crazy stuff that I did as an FBI hostage negotiator. I ended up as the FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. Any citizen, any American citizen that got kidnapped anywhere in the world, it was my job to come up with a negotiation strategy that was designed to both get them out and give us the ability to do a follow-on and go after the bad guys right afterwards. That was my job. I was in charge of every American citizen that got kidnapped anywhere in the world. So you might ask yourself, all right, so how busy is that guy who has that job, lead international kidnapping negotiator? Well, it's a great big world, and there are a lot of Americans doing stupid things. So at any given point in time, there'd be anywhere from 1 to 4 Americans that are being held someplace. So I'm working one day, and we got a kidnapping in Haiti. Now, before the earthquake in Haiti, kidnapping in Haiti of American citizens was a revolving door. Some of you are saying to yourself right now, I never saw that in the news. I never heard about that. I heard a lot of stuff about Haiti. I didn't hear that. And I actually had a reporter once say that to me, like, hey, you guys, you've worked well over 100 kidnappings in their entirety in a period of years. How come we didn't hear about it? Well, number one, what attracts the media? What's the number one rule? If it bleeds, it leads. We're doing a good job. Nobody's getting killed. Media's not terribly interested in that. Number two, the other interesting thing, which I'm sure impacted it, they're not tourists that are getting grabbed. They're dual nationals. The bad guys do not know that they're grabbing American citizens. Now, this is one of the cool things about the United States of America. I'm an unabashed, unapologetic patriot. Now, I realize this is not a perfect country, but there are millions of people trying to get here for a reason. This is a wonderful place. One of the very interesting things about this country growing up in Iowa that I never knew, that I took for granted, do you know how many countries are in the world that if you're born there, you're automatically a citizen? Do you know? It's argued that there are only 2 developed nations in the entire world, the US and Canada. Not one country in Europe, 1 or 2 in the Middle East. Australia, you get born in Australia, you think that entitles you to citizenship? No, they'll laugh at you. Born in England, they'll laugh at you. The United States, we have this concept, and it's largely a concept of the Americas, North and South America. There's a Latin term for it. I think it's called jus soli, forgive my pronunciation, means right of the soil. You're born in the U.S., you're born with the privileges that American citizenship confers, which are substantial. What does this have to do with Haiti? What this has to do with Haiti is Haitian moms understand the greatest gift they could possibly give their child on their child's literal first birthday is a gift of American citizenship and all the rights and privileges that confers. So no shortage of Haitian moms are finding their way into the United States, illegal or illegal, so the child is born an American citizen. That's why so many dual nationals are getting grabbed at Haiti. It's a wonderful idea that's unique to us. So anyway, there's a kidnapping in Haiti one day, and it's 12-year-old boys grabbed. 12-year-old boys are American citizens, parents are not. Now, the other thing that I had to learn about hostage negotiation is, and any rule in negotiation, doesn't matter what it is to you, doesn't matter. It matters what it is to them. So kidnapping, it's a horrific event to us and the family. To the bad guys on the other side, it's another day at the office. It's their job. It's what they do for a living. You guys see the movie Denzel Washington, Man on Fire? Who do you talk to in that movie? The voice. The voice was the kidnapper's negotiator. That was his job. He had a good voice. Let's let this guy negotiate. He's good at it. Division of labor. What's going on in Haiti at the time? The business model in Haiti, and I had to learn this as a business model, that they would have a division of labor. There'd be different guys doing different things. They'd have a price point, and they'd have the amount of time that they allocated in order to sell the commodity, which happened to be human beings. Horrible to us, to them, it's just a commodities business. They got people that are in charge of grabbing the commodity. They got people in charge of transporting the commodity. They got people in charge of holding the commodity. They got a separate person in charge of negotiating about the commodity, and they got some other people that let the commodity, deliver the commodity to the client. And they got a boss that watches all this happen and gets mad at them if they screw up. So the business model in Haiti at the time is a great business model. What are they doing? They're carjacking a car with more than one person in it. This is called pre-qualification, because if they're driving a car, they got money. Especially if they're in Haiti. You're driving a car in Haiti, you got enough money for a ransom. You got enough money for a car and gas, you got enough money for a ransom. They're pre-qualified. Grab it with more than one person in it because you let one person go. Instant notification. You don't have to worry about marketing. Your client already knows you're in business with them, right? Notifications are met. They were in a car together. They probably know how to get a hold of the guy's family, let him know he got kidnapped. And then here's the kicker that I always loved. What happens is you grab the one person in the family nobody likes. You still got a car. You get paid. It's a great business model. So this 12-year-old boy, not uncommon, gets grabbed in a carjacking. Dad's not an American citizen. He knows that his son is. Goes to the U.S. Embassy and says, my son's an American citizen. He got kidnapped. You're supposed to help me. Embassy says, the FBI is going to be there to help you out. Now, I don't know what went through his mind when he was told the FBI was going to be there to help him out. I can only imagine that probably about 15 minutes later, he thought he was going to hear on the front door, and these guys would be there. They might even have FBI hats on. But instead, about 15 minutes later, he gets a call from some guy in Washington, D.C., named Chris Voss, and he literally says to me, you're in Washington, D.C. How you gonna help me? How long do I have before this guy hangs up the phone? 3 seconds, probably. You encounter a potential client. I'm here to tell you they are saying to themselves, how you gonna help me? Everybody you deal with in your business says that to themselves on the opening encounter. And you know how much time you got to keep that conversation going? Do you guys know how long it takes to make a first impression? 3 to 10 seconds. Do you also know what actually makes a good first impression? Do you really know? Trust and competency. You got 3 seconds to establish trust and competency. Notice neither of those are where you from, how long you've been doing it, how likable you are, how friendly you are. Trust and competency. Now, what do I do with my 3 seconds with this dad? Not unlike what you need to do. Now, the reason why I know what to do right, because I've done it wrong before. I remember the first time I was in the Philippines on a kidnapping I'm going to tell you guys about in a little while. I get walked into a room that literally everybody other than the president of the Philippines is in. Cabinet secretaries, head of the police, secretary of defense. President, only reason the president wasn't there is because his personal advisor was. And the head of our office in the Philippines brought me in for this kidnapping, very high profile kidnapping of an American. And they basically said to me, how are you gonna help us? Who are you? How do we know you know what you're doing? And I make this mistake of trotting out my resume, which you most likely will do as well. You tell people your resume. I said, I've been an FBI agent for so many years, Joint Terrorist Task Force, New York City, Attorney General's Award for Excellence in Investigation, FBI Agent's Award for Distinguished and Exemplary Service. Not only have I been trained at the FBI in Scotland Yard, but I now write the book that the FBI teaches from. I not only read it, I write it. And I can tell you that they were suitably unimpressed. They may as well have yawned in my face. It became a contentious and heated negotiation over whether or not I was qualified to be there at all. I remember we walked out of there again. I'm a small town boy from Iowa. So the head of our office says, those guys were disrespectful. They challenged your qualifications. And I said, how cool is that? When was the last time you got to argue with the Secretary of Defense of an entire country? Because I'm from Iowa. That impressed me. I thought it was cool. So I don't do that with the Haitian dad. Here's what I did. I said, all right, Haitians are not killing kidnap victims these days. I realize that's really stupid because they kill each other at the drop of a hat, but they're not killing kidnap victims. And today is Thursday, and Haitian kidnappers love to party on Saturday night. If you say the things that I want you to say and follow my guidance, we will have your son out by Saturday morning. He said, tell me what you want me to do. And we had his son out Saturday morning. What did I do? What was it that I did? First of all, I didn't try to get him to say yes. Do you want help? Not once did I try to get him to say yes. Not once. But what I did was I told him I knew what he was looking for, what he was looking at. Because the first question your clients ask you is, do you understand what I'm faced with? I don't care if I like you. I don't care how long you've been doing this. Do you know what I'm looking at? Because I need to know whether or not I can explain it to you. I don't entirely understand it myself. How long did it take me to say that to that father? It was about 8 seconds worth of dialogue, wasn't it? Not a 20-minute dialogue. I laid out to him exactly what he was facing, and I offered him the slightest insight to the environment for a solution. Notice, I also didn't offer a single answer to how we were going to get his son out. That's intentional. I don't provide value in advance, because then people are encouraged to try to do it by themselves if it makes sense to them. And if it doesn't make sense to them, they say, you're an idiot. One of our strategies was to put kidnappers on a call schedule, to schedule the calls, to make appointments for calls with terrorists and sociopaths and kidnappers. Imagine that. I'm going to schedule an 11:30 call, and they're going to call at 11:30. And you're saying to yourself right now, that's stupid. He can't do that. Yes, I can, but I don't need the father saying to himself, that's stupid. How are you going to set an appointment for a kidnapper to call me? But I know how to do it. And I don't need either of those problems of him trying to do it on his own or him saying that my ideas are stupid. I just need to let him know. Trust and competency. Remember what I said before? Competency is established when you let somebody know you know what they're faced with, when you lay it out like that. And trustworthiness is lost when you try to get people to say yes. Did you wonder what the title of this presentation meant? Why yes is the last thing you want to hear? Did he mean like, well, of course it's last. We want a yes at an agreement? Or is it the last thing? Is it like, stop doing it? Well, it's stop doing it. That's what it's about. And I'm going to show you how to do it, but it's going to be hard. It's going to hurt you to stop it. I'm going to give you a feeling right now how hard it's going to hurt to stop doing it. I need everybody to stand up, please. Everybody stand up. All right, get a nice, solid stance, feet about shoulder width apart. Nice, solid, balanced stance. 90 degrees with each arm, fist with both hands, right thumb up, left forefinger out. Now switch. Switch back. Do it again. Speed it up. Come on. Quicker. Some of you right now are going like, ow, 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 ow. And I know in the back, a couple people are going like, come on. Move. All right, sit back down. Thank you for giving yourself a round of applause for doing that. Now, did you need to be Elon Musk to figure out what I was trying to get you to do? No. So it wasn't complicated. What it was awkward. And that's what's going to stick in your way. So let's talk a little bit more neuroscience. Those of you that when you were doing this, and it did almost hurt your head, here's the cool thing. That's the actual feeling of creating a new neural pathway in your brain. This is an exciting thought. A new neural pathway. And each and every time you try to create a new neural pathway, there's an actual chemical change in your brain. And there's a neuroscience saying that says the neurons that fire together wire together. Now, getting you out of yes, trying to get people to say yes, trying to hear yes, is going to be hard because that neural pathway is built. And you know how to ask them questions, and that neural pathway fires, and you come up with a yes question. And stopping that is going to be as difficult as this change, because it's going to hurt. And that's why you'll abandon it. That's why you'll quit and give up. Because you're like, if it hurts this much every time, I'm not doing this anymore. But here's the good news. Everybody knows what the learning curve looks like, right? Well, that's the very beginning of the learning curve. And when you ram into that baby, and it's hard, and it's hurt, and it's difficult, and it hurts your brain, you don't realize that in very short order, you're going to get over the crest, and on the other side, and your skills are going to take off. You quit because you think it's always going to be this hard. I heard an interesting talk about a year and a half ago. John Foley, Blue Angel pilot, he talked about building habits. And you know, if they don't build the habits, their jets crash into each other, those guys die. And he said they'd done some research on it. He called it grooving a habit in the brain. He said it takes about 63 tries. 63 tries. Which correlates to what anecdotally we believe a lot of people, it takes about 3 weeks to learn a habit. It's going to be awkward to get out of getting people to say yes for you. It's going to be awkward. You stick with it, try it a few times each day, and you'll find that you're going to get there. Because yes, getting someone to say yes, just give you an example. Somebody calls you on the phone, you pick up the phone, the voice on the other end of the line says, have you got a few minutes to talk? You all say this when you call people on the phone. All of you do. You hear it, have you got a few minutes to talk? What's your gut reaction when someone phone rings, you pick it up, have you got a few minutes to talk? Right. You don't like it. Anxiety, distraction. Here's what that question actually entails, because you're going to run this through your head. Number one, if I have a few minutes to talk, do I want to talk to you? If I have a few minutes to talk and I want to talk to you, do I want to talk about what you want to talk about? There's not a man alive, or woman probably for that matter, the most important, your significant other, the most important person in the world calls you up on the phone, and that voice says, can we talk? And you say to yourself, well, I know I like talking to you, but I don't think I want to talk about what you want to talk about. Next question you ask yourself is, how long is a few minutes? My next younger sister calls me on the phone when she's got an hour drive ahead of her. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Also, by the way, her intention is she talks the whole time. And that isn't gender-based because I got a friend of mine, a male friend of mine who's an attorney. He works out a whole long list of things to talk about in a conversation. No phone call with him is ever less than 45 minutes. He wants to work through his agenda, and he calls on the phone and says, have you got a few minutes to talk? It's 45 every time. So that's going through your head also when someone says, have you got a few minutes to talk? And finally, the last question is, how do I get off the phone? Getting yes out of people is the single biggest corrosion to your relationships. The rest of the day, observe conversations. See if you don't see somebody trying to get a yes out of somebody else, and see if you don't see the person they're trying to get a yes out of leaning back. Just as an example, at a conference I was at, probably about 2 years ago, speakers' conferences. Everybody has conferences. Speakers have conferences too. We're people too. So what do speakers say to each other at a conference? What are you talking about? That's what we all say to each other. We talk because we talk. And I'm at the bar at the hotel that evening, and a lady from the group that I'm in Los Angeles at the time, we sit down. She says, what are you talking about? And I said, I talk about how uncomfortable getting yes out of someone makes them, how bad it is for relationships, how defensive it makes people all the time. She goes, I don't think that's true. I haven't experienced that at all. And while we're sitting there, the waitress comes up and she looks at the waitress. She says, I'll have a vodka martini. And the waitress goes away, and then she looks at me and she says, all right, I know that my husband and I have a business that's all about wine. All we talk about in our business is wine. We talk about what wine to have with this food, what wine to have with this occasion, what wine to have with this party. I know our business is all wine all the time. She said, I like vodka martinis, okay? Like, all right. So she says, so what was it that you were talking about? And I was sitting there and I go like, do you like vodka martinis? And she goes, well, yes. See? You spent 3 minutes telling me that you like vodka martinis. The first time I try to get you to say yes to that, you get defensive on the confirmation. I'm talking about this with my son about a year and a half ago. We're coming out of this building. We've just given a training to a company in New Jersey, and we're in there, and it's a secure space, so they got security. And he says, I don't think that people are always reluctant to say yes. I mean, he says, I don't think it's as big a problem as you do. And we walk up to the security guard to give our badges back, and this guy and it says Allied Security on his uniform. So the guy's at his job, on duty, he's seen us already, he's got a sign on him that says he works for Allied Security, and I look at him and I say, do you work for Allied Security? And he goes, why you ask? And I just looked at my son and I went, what do you want from me? So you should be worried about this. It's probably the biggest single contributor to people not returning your calls. I'm 1,000% convinced that they will initially tolerate it early on, but eventually they stop calling you back. I don't know how many people you have that are non-responders. We were counseling a CEO with a sales company, and we gave him a solution to non-responders. He said, I'm 12 for 12 with what you gave me. Now, if he's got 12, everybody in his company's got at least 12. That's an exponential factor. You have employees, however many non-responders you have, they have at least that many. What's that costing you? You know how many non-responders we have? 0. Really? What are you doing different? Let me lay it out for you. Who's this guy? Jack Welch, sort of a rock star of CEOs. Wrote the book Winning, wrote the book Jack, was the CEO of GE while they were the most competitive company on the planet under Jack Welch's leadership. Did extraordinary things. One of Jack Welch's most recent book is called The Real Life MBA. His co-author, his wife, Susie. They're in Los Angeles about 2 years ago on a book signing. I want to get Jack to come and speak at the negotiation class I'm teaching at USC at the time. How many people asked Jack Welch to say yes that day? how many people try to get Jack Welch to say yes to something at that book signing? You're me. What do you say to Jack Welch? Give him your value proposition. How do you know he values anything you have? How do you know he's smart enough to value anything you have? What are the problems here? How much time have I got with Jack Welch? You're me. How much time do you have with Jack Welch? Let's talk about the problems. 200 to 300 people in a book signing. What happens at a book signing? There's a line of 300 people. You get up to before you get up to the person there, because everybody's going to want to chat up Jack Welch, right? And if everybody stands there and talks to him for 5 minutes, the thing goes on all day. So they don't want that. You get close to Jack Welch, somebody says, what's your name? They write it on a piece of paper. So that theoretically, he doesn't get your name wrong, which is part of it, but it's also so you don't have to tell him, he doesn't have to say what your name is. He doesn't have to talk to you if he doesn't ask you your name. They keep you moving, keep the line moving. Problem one. Problem two, Jack Welch is a legitimate celebrity, is he not? They don't know who I am. They don't know that I'm not carrying a gun, which I am. They don't know that. They haven't put me through a metal detector. They don't have my ID. They don't know that I'm not somebody that shorted GE stock at the wrong time and Jack Welch made a public statement and I lost a family fortune over a bad bet. I could be there to hurt Jack Welch. Jane Fonda was at a book signing a number of years ago, a Vietnam veteran. Once he got close enough to her, spit right in her face. I'm going to get within arm's length of Jack Welch. He has security people. They have reason to be afraid that I might hurt him. And action is quicker than reaction, so I'm going to get arm's length. They can't stop me from doing what I'm going to do. They could make me pay for it afterwards, but they can't stop me. And they know that. I could walk up to Jack Welch. I could come up to Jack Welch, and I could take his face right in my hands. I could kiss him on the lips, which is horrifying this gentleman right here, right now. They don't know what I'm going to do. Knowing all this, knowing I got time for one thing to say, I walk up to Jack Welch and I say, is it a ridiculous idea? Is it a ridiculous idea for you to come and speak at the negotiation class that I teach at USC? And he looks at me and he looks up and to the left and his face just freezes in this scowl. And he doesn't move. And I think to myself, I just killed Jack Welch. He's furious. He had a stroke and he died. And he's going to fall over right in front of me. And they're going to blame me. And they're going to tackle me. And I'm going to say, I'm an FBI agent. And they're going to say, we don't care. You just killed Jack Welch. So initially when he doesn't die, I'm relieved. But when he still doesn't unfreeze, now I figure pretty soon he's going to start going, security, security. Instead, finally he looks at me and he says, this is my personal assistant's name. This is a special Twitter account that we have set up to communicate with her. I will call her and tell her who you are and what you want. I think we're going to be in Los Angeles in the fall. If we are, we'll come in and speak at your class. Think about how many answers I got in succession. We like to say that we call this a calibrated no. We use it all the time. We don't even bother with yes. Calibrated no is worth at least 5 yeses. Think about that return on investment. Because think of all the decisions that I would have had to try to get. Would you like to do this? Who's your secretary? How do I get in touch with you? Can I have permission to talk to your secretary? Are you going to be in Los Angeles in the fall? Think of all the things that he thought through and answered and gave me the hows to. The how to get them done, the hows, without me saying another word. So the first thing you need to do, the typical, watch the questions you ask people. Each and every question that you ask, you're going to find a vast majority of them are innocent confirmation questions. Confirmation, yes, but it's killing your relationships. So just switch the beginning of any one of those questions to, is it a bad idea? Is it ridiculous? Are you against? Do you disagree? We never ask anybody, do you agree? We say, do you disagree? No is protection. No makes people feel safe. No makes people feel comfortable. You know, there's a saying, and it's understanding what your data is really telling you, because there's a saying, the kids are good at negotiating with their parents, especially teenagers, because they won't take no for an answer. Like when my son, who's now my director of operations, and my best coach, my best negotiation coach, when he was 17 and he used to say, Dad, can I? And I'd say, no. But then I found myself watching this. I would always say, all right, having said no, feeling protected and safe, I'd say, all right, what was it that you wanted? And I'd hear him out. So it's not kids are good at negotiating with parents, or the kids don't take no for an answer. Kids have learned that once a human being has said no, they're eminently more persuadable. They feel safe and protected and secure and are willing to listen, having said no. It's not a parent-child thing, it's a human being to human being thing. And it's an interesting distinction, because that makes it useful in your life. So again, it's looking at the data and understanding what it really says, and not, some people say, hey, you know what? Playing basketball makes you tall. No, you're looking at your information and you're misinterpreting it. So the idea that kids are good at negotiating because they don't take no for an answer from their parents, it's human beings on human beings. So I should have you scared of your habit at this point in time. By the way, your addiction to yes. You've got an addiction to yes. You didn't know it was going to be one of those meetings, did you? Hi, I'm Chris. Hi, Chris. You guys know those meetings, right? You're addicted to yes. It's a problem. It's killing your interactions. It's killing your relationships. It's causing people to no longer want to talk to you because they feel trapped. And its first simple method is to just flip out of yes into no. It's stupid, but it's human nature. We're coaching somebody on the phone, and they say to me, like, I don't know what to do. They're in no mode. I go, that's all they say. They're in no mode. I'm like, perfect, just change your questions. Like, that's stupid. I know it's stupid. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. We had someone in a training at a hospital corporation. They had a head nurse that was turning down a scenario, a program they wanted to implement in a hospital. She gets up and walks out of the training because she kept saying to this head nurse, is it a good idea to do this? Do you agree that this is a good program? Do you agree that this program solves your problem? She's trying to get her to say yes. She gets her on the phone and she says, are you against implementing this program? And the nurse says, no. As a matter of fact, here's what we could do, and lays it out. She walks back in a room and she says, you're going to be shocked. I just got an agreement on something by switching from yes to no on a program that we've been trying to get implemented for 2 months. Think about the impact on your profit if you could speed things up that quickly. All right, so at this point in time, some of you are saying like, okay, what if no's not enough? As powerful as it is, what do I do now? What if that doesn't work? Well, and everybody wants the magic fairy dust that you can sprinkle on somebody to get an agreement. Can I just sprinkle this dust on them? And they'll agree. Well, there is. It's a little bit counterintuitive. It's a little bit different. We don't bother with yes. If no is not enough, here's what we're going for. And you're going to be a little surprised by this, because the magic words that you want the other person to hear, that you want the other person to say, that you want to hear. You want them to say it, you need to hear it as opposed to hearing yes, is this. That's right. You want to trigger a that's right, not a yes, from your counterpart. And you trigger it with a simple summary of the situation and how they see it. And if there's negativity about you, particularly, specifically recognizing that negativity and not denying it with like, I don't want you to think, or the yes, but, no denial, simple observation, especially the negative stuff. And that's going to be hard because what you're used to doing is laying out a case for why people should do business with you, and you get the worst answer you could possibly get. You know what the worst answer you could possibly get from someone? And it ain't no. The worst thing anybody could ever possibly say to you is look you in the eye and say, you're right. You're like, hold it, wait. I love it when people tell me I'm right, because I am. I know what I'm doing. So I really love it when they tell me, look at me and say, you're right. Let's flip it around the other way. You're in a conversation with a colleague, anybody that is just talking at you for whatever reason. You want to preserve the relationship, either because you're a nice person or because you need to, for whatever the reason is, but you want them to shut up and go away. You look them in the eye, and you know what you say to them? You're right. And they get this big happy smile on their face, and then they go away. Happy as clams. And they come back to you a day later, a week later, because you didn't change anything that you were doing. And they start in on you again, and yak. And you look them in the eye and you go, you're right. And they leave again. Now, nobody would ever do that to you, would they? Just because you do it all the time, nobody would do that to you. You know who the world's greatest practitioners of your right are? Let me give you an example. I did this talk probably about 3 years ago. A guy comes up to me in the afternoon after the break, because I love it when somebody comes up and says, I got it, that's right, and made the deal on the spot. It was awesome. I can't believe it worked. So this guy says, hey, I already did what you said. I already used it. It was great. I love it. And I'm standing going like, all right, cool. I'm going to hear another deal. He said, I was texting back and forth on the phone with my wife. She's always giving me a hard time about being at these conferences. She says, you're there partying, you're staying out late at night, you're having a good time, you're drinking. And I say, no, sweetheart, I gotta go. I gotta network in my industry. I gotta get to know people. I gotta learn. I gotta get better at what I'm doing. And this time, instead of trying to lay all the reasons out for her, I just sent her a text back that said, you're right. She sent me back 3 hearts and 2 smiley faces. She never did that before. And I was like, no, stop. That is not what I wanted you to do. He says, it worked great. She shut up and left me alone. So look, use your powers for good and not evil, okay? As we move forward here. You got to get it, that's right. Let me lay it out a little bit, because what a lot of people will often say is, because isn't what you're talking about empathy? And isn't that tired and played out? Haven't I heard of empathy for years and years and years? I don't care about it anymore. Empathy is not sympathy, and that's why we call it tactical empathy. We know more about this. We know how the brain works. You know who the greatest practitioners of empathy are? Sociopaths. 2 questions. Do sociopaths use empathy, and does it work on them? I'm here to tell you they use it, and you know why they use it? Because it works. Sociopaths don't care about you. They just want to influence you in the laziest way they possibly can, laziest and most sustainable, because they don't want to have to come back to you every day to reconvince you. And they know to avoid this gerbil wheel of reconvincing, nothing shortcuts that and is more durable than empathy. Point 1. Point 2, does it work on sociopaths? Let me lay it out for you. Let's talk about money. Not a little bit of money, a lot of money. $10 million, $10 million, $10 million. American grabbed, in the Philippines on a case I was telling you about a little bit ago. American somewhat doing something stupid. This is a guy that's got him. Make no mistake. This guy is as bad as they come. This guy's a sociopath. This guy's a murdering, raping, head-chopping killer. That's not a coincidence. He's got on a black bandana, sunglasses, a black t-shirt, camel pants, and a .45 strapped to his side because he thought it made him look good. And he was a heavily photographed guy. He was always photographed with the sunglasses on. He thought it made him look more dashing. Thought he caught a more impressive figure. The media's literally got him on speed dial, no joke. And he has them on speed dial. They call him on the phone. They have a translator ask him questions in Tagalog, which is his native language. He answers in English because he wants his voice on CNN. He has told reporters that there should be a movie made about him. And there is no shortage of blood on his hands. This guy is a sociopathic killer, relentless. And he's got our American. And the demand for the American is $10 million, but not in ransom, because this is a smart guy. It's war damages. For 500 years of oppression in the south of the Philippines, from the Spanish to the Japanese to the Americans, to the violations of fishing rights, to the economic harm that's been committed on this region of the Philippines for well over 500 years. Not only that, they're not Filipinos in this part of the world, they're Moros. They're a separate and independent nation that's being held down by a puppet government that's propped up by the United States of America. Let me give you another piece of information about these guys. Do you guys know why the U.S. military has .45 caliber automatics? Exactly right, to kill this guy's grandfather. We had .38s, and we couldn't kill his grandfather with them. We were shooting him with them, and it wasn't knocking him down and keeping him down. He's from a warlike culture that prides itself on being great warriors, and we needed .45s to knock this guy's parents down and keep him down. So he comes from this tradition. So we get involved in this negotiation, and I get into the Philippines, and what I really am is an international negotiation coach. I coached negotiations in every culture on the planet. You drop me into a country, and I'm in 6 to 12 hours, I'm coaching a negotiation. You might say, that's pretty cool. There are a lot of countries in this world, a lot of languages. How many languages does Chris Voss speak? And I've been talking to you long enough now for you to realize the answer to that is barely one. What I need to find is somebody who's coachable. And a guy that I find is coachable is this guy up here on the left side of your screen. Now, this guy is a patriot. He's one of the few people on the planet that I would put the life of my son in his hands. And he's a Filipino patriot. And he is the commander of the police's SAF, the Special Action Force. The Philippine National Police's equivalent of Navy SEALs. And these guys are bad to the bone also. When I first met Benji, who about 2 years ago retired as the number 3 general in the Philippine National Police, at the time he was a colonel, when I first met him, he'd led his guys on 30 rescue missions personally, and he and his guys didn't take handcuffs. Some of you are realizing that that means that he led his guys on 30 firefights that year. Oh, by the way, it was August. It was only August, and he'd been in 30 firefights. Benji was as bad as they come. And he's not entirely sure that he's comfortable with this warm and fuzzy stuff that we're trying to get him to do. Very coachable guy, very smart, great learner. And he's back and forth because he doesn't understand. We called it empathy now. Then it's tactical empathy now. We know how the brain works. We know how to get in there and just dial things up and dial things down a little bit, and it's a subtle, stealth way. And I can remember late one night we're working with him because we'd work 24/7 when the American ambassador's summer residence up in the mountains, and I see this snarl coming over Benji's face. And I look at him and I realize I got to get the equivalent of that's right out of him, and I got to articulate without denying what's in his head. So I see this snarl and I just look at him and I say, you hate Sabaya, don't you? Sabaya's the bad guy's name. I said, you hate Sabaya. Notice I didn't say, I don't want you to hate Sabaya. I said, you hate him. He said, I tell you I do. He is murdered and he is raped. He's cut the heads off of people who were helpless while they were down on their knees. And he's murdered them by chopping off their heads. He's come on our radios while we're bombing his position and said, these mortars are music to my ears. And the only way he comes on our radio is if he's standing over the body of one of my colleagues. I hate him. And with that, I got it out of him, and he dropped in to being a great negotiator. And he started to get on board with this tactical empathy approach that I'm telling you about. And I'll tell you on the side, the American ambassador's summer residence in the Philippines is supposed to be haunted. And we're up there late at night, and we're coaching in the library. I send him home, I send everybody else to bed. Now I'm in the library by myself. And I'm like, I ain't scared of ghosts. I ain't scared of ghosts. So I'm going to read a couple books. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to read some books. I sat there for a while and I read the books. I said, all right, I'll go to bed now. And what I didn't realize was there was a series of about 3 really long libraries, these large cavernous rooms, and the light switch is on the wrong side of the room. So I got to turn the light off and then walk through a completely pitch black room to get to the next room. And each time I shut off the light and I went, then I get to the next room, it wasn't cool, it wasn't cool. Got to walk slow, turn off the next light and go. I finally got through all 3 rooms, and I get to the top of the stairs, and I hear a door slam downstairs. Now, I have just cleared the entire downstairs. And I look down there, and I look down to pitch black, and I think, you don't need me down there. And I go to bed. So I never saw anything actually crazy, but I will tell you, when I got up the next morning, I'm in the kitchen, and the housekeepers would not stay in the house. They stayed in an off building. And I'm standing in the kitchen, one of the housekeepers jumps in and sees me, and then she goes, so, you know, I don't know what these guys saw in this place, but as you could see, I was not scared in the least while I was there. So anyway, we get back into the negotiations with Sabaya, and they're not cutting loose of this $10 million ransom demand. So I said, we're going to get Sabaya on the phone, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a that's right out of him. Now, fortunately, this is not a hard sell because our negotiations have been going on for so long, instead of people saying to themselves, like what you're thinking right now, like, what good is that going to do? That's what's getting in your way right now. You're saying to yourself, all right, fine, what good's it going to do? We've been negotiating long enough that nobody's given me static over this. My answer would have been, I don't know, it's just going to be good, which was fine because we hadn't had anything good happen in a long time. So 2 days later, my guy gets the terrorist on the phone, and he says, you know what, you're not asking for ransom for Jeffrey Schilling. You're asking for war damages for 500 years of oppression, from the Spanish to the Japanese to the Americans, to the atrocities committed under Blackjack Pershing in the early 1900s, to the economic harm, and it's unjust and it's wrong, and you're not asking for anything that you don't feel you're completely entitled to. He laid it out, he went point by point by point, and if you're not laying it on thick in these instances, you're not laying it on thick enough. And that's what I told him, lay it on thick. You have to feel like you're laying it on too thick. And when he finished up, the sociopath on the other end of the phone went silent for a moment, and he said, that's right. And then he sat there together in silence for a couple more moments, and my guy said, let's talk again in a couple of days. And the sociopath said, okay. And he hung up the phone, and we went from $10 million to 0 in that conversation. The ransom demand never came up again after that conversation. Not dime one was ever asked for again as the kidnapping finished playing it out. We went through a couple of other twists and turns in the case. And on Maundy Thursday, the Thursday before Easter, the American walked away. The kidnappers had become sufficiently disorganized, but not angry at us. They loosened up their security. The American was out in the swamp. He said, I could walk away. Why do I stay? He walks away. Farmer sees him walking down a dirt road, recognizes him. There aren't that many black Americans walking around the south of the Philippines. You must be Jeffrey Schilling. I am. They alert the military. The military flies down in helicopters, picks him up. They take him back to Manila. They hold this press conference, and they say, we have rescued the American Jeffrey Schilling. And he's sitting there with the president on one side, Secretary of Defense on the other, talking about this daring rescue mission. Daring rescue mission. They gave him a ride. Same way I got rescued from the airport yesterday by my Lyft driver. But Jeffrey didn't say anything, so they flew him out. Came back to the United States. Everything was fine. I'm back in the Philippines about 3 weeks later. I connect back up with my guy. He says, you're not going to believe who called me on the phone. I don't know. Sabaya. Really? Because the terrorist has still got my guy's undercover cell phone and knows him by his undercover name. What'd he say? He said, have you been promoted yet? Because he knew that my guy had to be either with the police or the military. He knew he had to be a government guy. Didn't know for sure which. But he knew he had to be a government guy. Called him on the phone and said, have you been promoted yet? I have no idea what it was that you said to me on the phone. I was going to kill the American. Whatever you said worked. They should promote you. He hangs up the phone. You guys know that Robert De Niro, Billy Crystal movie, Analyze This, where De Niro says to Crystal, you're good, you. You've got a gift. Yes, you do. You're good. That's a terrorist calling my guy saying, I felt respected by you. He's also saying, I'd deal with you again. Think about that. He got nothing, and he calls the guy back up on the phone to show his respect and indicate that he's open to continue talking the next time that they cross paths. He felt that understood, respected. Two people who, had they met on the battlefield, would have happily fought with knives to make it more personal. But through that sense of communication, that willing to deal with people. This transformation of triggering somebody to say that's right is insane. I had one of my students in my class at Georgetown. She's a pharmaceutical salesperson. She got a doctor on her route that is not buying a brand new drug that she knows his patients need. She schedules an appointment with him because she's got no trouble getting appointments. She goes in and talks to him. He's typing on his computer when she's talking. He's on his cell phone. He's taking notes. He's just barely talking. He might as well be sitting there with his hand up to her face. She schedules an appointment. She's got one goal only. She's going to get a that's right out of him. She prepares for the that's right. She knows what she's got to say to make it sound like it's against her. That's the key. Do not be afraid to say the things that don't sound like they're in your interest. What would you imagine? How do you imagine a pharmaceutical salesperson looks to a doctor? Imagine the things that's going through his head about how she doesn't care. She's only working on behalf of some company that wants to make money. She sits down with him and she says, you know, you're not going to listen to any pharmaceutical sales rep whose only interest is to make money. A pharmaceutical company that's trying to maximize their profits, regardless of your patient's well-being. She says, your patients aren't just patients to you, they're people. And you feel responsible for their lives. Your job is to give people another Christmas with their family. She said he turned and looked at her as if it was the first time he'd ever seen her. And he said, that's right. She made the sale. Notice again what she articulated. Not one denial in there. Not one attempt to get a yes. You want to save your patients, don't you? Don't you want to give your patients another holiday with their families? Don't you want to extend their lives? I don't want you to think I'm just a pharmaceutical sales rep. She let it all out unflinchingly, fearlessly. And he said, that's right. And she made the sale. We see this happen time after time after time. When people get out of this yes nonsense, and really more than anything else, no is the boost. But that's right is where the money is made. That's right is where the relationships are built. That's right is when someone feels a bridge, a connection with you. Because that's right is what we say when the person that we've just heard has just spoken the complete truth. It's a little bit of a double whammy. It creates an epiphany moment in the other side, and it's them saying to you, I feel empathy from you. And if you have any doubts whether or not it will work, it worked on a sociopathic terrorist. So, besides the book, most of you guys are going to get a copy of the book. If you want to know more, only if you want to know more. My company has a newsletter, comes out once a week. Send a text to that number, FBI Empathy, all one word. Don't let your spell check autocorrect it, and put a space in there. This is a gateway to everything we have. We've got some training products that we charge for. We've got a training coming up in New York in May. We do open enrollment trainings. But this newsletter is a once a week, Tuesday morning, short, sweet, how to get better at a specific aspect. We've got a lot of people that like this because it's free, it's complimentary. Former colleague of mine, he's going to sound like a federal employee because he used to like to say, if it's free, I'll take 3. So it's free, it's good price. It's excellent information in there that will help you become a better negotiator each and every day. And you're not going to use up all your decision capacity trying to read through this thing. It's a short, sweet, digestible article. So I like to share a short video with you really quickly, and then I'll be done. So what I mentioned before, and I alluded to it a couple times, is preparation. Preparation is important. Our preparation process is not extensive. It only takes a few moments in any given negotiation. But I have a video to show you about preparation that's critical, about preparation on our entire approach to negotiation.
Proof of life video, that's what they're called. The ultimate good news, bad news story, if you're ever unfortunate enough to see one. Today's high-stakes rescue mission in Colombia ended a drama that has been dragging on for years. Chris Voss is the former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator, and he worked on the...
All right, so in terms of preparation, what preparation issues do I have here? My hair's sticking out on the side. I don't know if you can see it well enough, but I got my hair sticking straight out on the side of my head. Now, this is the first time that I was on Anderson Cooper, and I went in there, I was really excited. Again, Chris Voss, son of Richard and Joyce Voss, Mount Pleasant, Iowa, small-town boy. I'm going into Anderson Cooper. I want to find out some cool stuff. Like, I've heard that they have this thing called the green room, and do they have a green room, and is it green? So I go in, they take me into the green room. They have a green room, it's not green, but it's kind of a cool place. They're really nice to you. They give you coffee, water, interesting people in there. You go from the green room, you know where you go after that? Makeup. And I remember the first time I was sitting in the makeup chair at CNN, and I'm thinking, like, my father's rolling over in his grave right now. His son is putting on makeup. Midwestern guy would not understand that at all. So you go through makeup, and then they take you to another room, and it's actually the room where they're going to film you. You're not in the studio with Anderson Cooper, you're in a room. It's a large closet, a large dark closet with a light that shines right in your eyes. You're supposed to look right below the light. That's the camera. Say, talk to that. That'll be Anderson. Imagine that's Anderson. And then there's a monitor down to the left, and they say, we got a monitor here, and it's going to go live when we go live. And it'll be the live program. Do you want that on? I'm going to say, yes, leave that baby on. I never saw me on TV before. I want to watch me on TV. Leave that on. So we've just gone live, and I'm looking down at the monitor, and I can see that my hair is sticking out. And I am perplexed. And to make it worse, the monitor's a mirror image, so I don't know which side of my head the hair is sticking out. But I'm a negotiator, right? I generate options. I got to figure something out. I got to figure out which side of my hair is at, because what are my options? What can I do? This is racing through my mind. I can't go like two hands because I'm going to feel like, one of the Three Stooges. I can't lick my hand because that would look bad if I did that. So first of all, I got to isolate the problem. So
this case from the beginning until his retirement just last year. He joins me now. Chris, this has got to be kind of...
I don't know why I thought moving my head around was going to help. Maybe it would wave and I could feel it. You see from the look on my face, I'm thinking like, nah, that didn't help. So now I'm thinking, I'm trying to decide what to do.
A remarkable day for you to be so...
Anderson Cooper's hair is perfect. Why do we got to do a comparison? Why do we got to go side by side? I guarantee that at the time the producer's going like, hey, let's go split screen. Let's make sure everybody knows Voss's hair is sticking out. And I look up and I see this, and you see how thoroughly disgusted I am at the comparison. So now I'm sitting there, I'm trying to decide, how long is this going to be? Can I make my move? It's like double Dutch jump rope, right? Where you're trying to decide when you can jump in. How can I get in? I got to go, because my mom is watching this. Everybody she goes to church with, they're going to be like, your son can't even comb his hair. It's an embarrassment to our town. So I got to deal with this. I'm thinking about it. When can I make my move?
Closely involved in this, and to finally...
You see the look of disgust on my face.
See it come to fruition.
Damn it! That didn't work. So what I'm here to tell you, though, is I finished the segment. They didn't ban me from CNN because I made a mistake. With the proper preparation, with the proper approach, then you can make mistakes. It'll soak up problems in your communication. So I'm gonna leave you with this. Everybody stand up, please. Everybody stand up. Remember I told you before about the men in black, right? Remember that little red flashy thing? Everybody look right up here. All right, after today, everybody that you deal with is going to feel respected and understood and appreciated and looked out for by your application of tactical empathy. You'll feel better, and you'll be surprised at the number of results that will come your way because of it. Thank you for spending time with me today. It's been a pleasure to be here.